Hey Terraria fans, what's going on? Welcome back to another World Tour video. Guys, in this one we have two very distinct builds. The first one's going to be our Corrupt Snow Bunker, which is already posted on to our YouTube channel. It's a speed build. If you want to go check that out, you can, we'll post it there at the end of this video. The other build is going to be our library build, which again is also posted as a speed build, and you can also check that one out on the channel as well. So in the World Tour series, as you might already know, what we try to do is highlight some of the techniques, the materials, and some of the design choices for every different build. So while the builds might look complex, I actually don't have a plan when I start them, and oftentimes I just kind of go off the seat of my pants. And if you want to watch me go through that fun process, you can actually see me live on Twitch every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We also stream some other games there as well, but Terraria Tuesday is a thing, and it's a lot of fun, and you guys are welcome to jump in and build something yourself. So guys, if you're enjoying any of the builds or any of the designs, or of course the videos, feel free to hit that like or subscribe button. And with that said, let's jump into the build, shall we? All right, folks, so as always, we're going to start off with highlighting some of the materials that we've been using. So this is the Snow Bunker build, guys. In this one, obviously, you can see there's a lot of different kind of plating and metal components. We got some cog wall, some tin plating, some copper plating, and some lead brick wall, as well as some iron brick wall, and a couple of silly balloon walls for some different design elements. We also use some palladium column wall, which is rare, as well as the disc wall and confetti wall. Now, these are all walls that you can get in the game. In terms of blocks, guys, again, sort of in this metallic theme, some palladium, some copper plating, some adamantite, and also some gemspark for some lights. Other than that, nothing too crazy. Now, guys, if you do want a full list of the materials, happy to provide that in the comments. Just let me know down below and I'll happily write them out. But generally, I would say feel free to pause the video here and just take a quick look at what all these are. If you don't know what something is, I'm happy to answer that as well. All right, so with the materials covered, guys, let's get to the build. So here we are at the entrance of the bunker build. Now you'll see that this tree actually doesn't look too terrible, and we even added some snow on top. Now, one thing I will say is as I was building this, when I kind of finished, I realized I probably should have added a bit more kind of snowy elements to the build and the design. But in general, we try to make this look like a bit of a sort of post-apocalyptic bunker that's in the snow. We try to keep everything very muted in its colors, lots of grays, lots of things in the background. This is just meant to make, sort of look like a sort of machine that's working away here. We have a loom connected to I believe this is a granite table, and a little bit of a extractinator here that allows us to give some more movement to the build. I actually really like the way these stairs turn out as well. This is just the adamantite beam that's actuated, so you can actually fall through it. But it just has a nice look for this build. And we kept everything, again, very gray and very just monotone. Now, the exception to being monotone is, of course, as you can see, here's where we use our confetti wall, as well as here, here, and here. Just different screens, computers, and making it look like wiring that's kind of active. We have some vats here, I believe, that are kind of still functioning. Nothing crazy. And the design here, guys, is a mix of different sort of metallic materials. So you will see this is our palladium column, this is our cog block, and these are a mixture of either our copper plating or our tin plating, and it's all painted gray. So this gives a really nice kind of effect where you kind of see separation between the blocks. I think it's something that people don't do as often as they could. And then, of course, we kind of put inserts for our wood and supports for our wood by actually putting in the spooky wood here as well. And again, that is also painted brown. So for the bunker itself, as you drop down, now we have this interesting room here where I don't really know what this was supposed to be. I just wanted some sort of machines working. So we have some die vats that look like they're connected to these. I believe these are, I actually forget what these are called, but these little spinning kind of things here are really useful in terms of making some movement along with the cog wall in the background. So it looks pretty good. And the idea is that these are turned off while this one remains active. Why? I don't know. I just thought it looked kind of nice. So down here is the actual sort of bunker where there's actual rooms. You drop down, and of course you have separate rooms. We try to keep them thematically the same without changing too much. So here I believe we have I believe this is a bamboo stool painted blue. We have everything sort of identical. We have some screens that are working, and we have these sort of separate contained units here on the side, which are meant to be kind of connected up to these. It's nothing crazy, but here we actually went with platinum instead. This platinum brick looks really good and just kind of adds a different dimension. And we try to keep the sort of inconsistent consistencies of the actual walls of the structure similar to up top. I will say I could have added some different rooms down here, but I just wanted this to feel like this is where people kind of tuck themselves away to go to sleep and stay safe. We also went with the steampunk doors that look rather large and robust and metallic, and I guess, kind of safe, which is sort of the whole point of a bunker. So going back to our main room here, one of the things I added was this awning. I thought this was kind of interesting. Actually, it took me a little while to build. This is just, I believe, copper plating connected to some tin plating. So then we have some cog blocks here, and then of course our platinum blocks or bricks that kind of make the sort of, I guess, foundational piece that's connecting into our fence. And then finally, guys, we have this kind of, I don't know what you call this. This is a little overhang where we kind of went with this complex, but matching what we built up here. Again, this is just a sort of mishmash of either palladium column and some different plating. So you have the column here, you have copper or tin plating, and then you mix and match, put some cog walls behind. And while it looks really complex, it's not actually that hard to do. So we did the same thing down here. Then we just added a couple of crates, boxes, barrels, and that kind of thing, just to give it a little bit of a sort of storage area. And then of course you would jump off down here to go exploring. Now, I will say I probably would have liked to add a lot more landscaping, but guys, as you know, that takes quite a bit of time sometimes. And also the fact that, because I'm only streaming for 4 or 5 or 6 maybe hours when I'm doing this, I don't always necessarily have the time to add all those finishing touches. That's sort of part of the challenge. So there you go, guys. There is build number 1, the corrupted snow bunker. Now, if you have any questions, guys, about this build, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will happily answer that as well. Again, if there's any materials that you think I should have used or that you want to know that I used, by all means, please feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you on that. All right, so with that done, let us move to our second build. All right, folks, so here we are at our second build. As always, we're going to show you the materials that were used. Now, again, I'm not going to go through each one individually, so feel free to pause here and just take a quick look. I will say that in terms of unique blocks, I perhaps don't use quite as much. We're definitely some blue dynasty wall, which, while common, is not something I use all that much. I also use some pumpkin wall, as well as some pink slab wall. Now, again, for some people, these are probably very common to use. For me, not so much. And then, of course, on this side, for blocks, I actually use crimstone brick, which I also don't use very often, and then some pumpkin blocks as well. And that's for a specific place there. Again, a very simple build in terms of the materials used. These are all pretty common. Some ebon stone, stone accent slab, boreal wood, and rich mahogany, and spooky wood. Nothing too crazy. But again, guys, feel free to pause here, take a look. If you have any questions about any of the materials, by all means, feel free to leave me a comment on it, and I will definitely respond. All right, so with the materials out of the way, let's go check out this library. All right, guys, so here is the library. I know it looks like a lot to take in at once, but let's walk through each room and give you a sense of what we did. So in the first floor, as you come in, the first thing you're probably going to notice is, yes, a lot of different bookshelves, and that's kind of the point. But what we also tried to go for was a very distinct and clear separation between the wood. So the wood paneling here, which is ebon wood here. This is living wood wall. And then, of course, our stone, which I believe this is ebon stone painted white. So the idea here, and so there's also some plank wall here, but the idea here was really, guys, just to have a lot of different materials that looked clean, and that's how I envision a library. Now, if you're looking at the walls and the actual structure of the build, you'll notice this is where we use our crimstone brick. Not something I use all the time, but in this build, I thought it looked really quite good. Attached to that is going to be our palm wood, and that's just simple wood that you can paint brown. It looks pretty good. It has a nice vertical element to it. We also added some of our stone slab into this to give it a bit of separation and a bit more density. So really, guys, in this room, the only real unique feature I would say is this window. I decided to make sort of a statement window and then have beside that some stairs that would sort of explain what was in each area. So of course, this whole library section is meant to be about crafting and glassworking. The one up here, if we take our wonderful teleporter, which we went the wrong way, here we go this way, we'll find that the books up here are related to either cooking or to anything related to sinks or, sort of bath works. And the idea here was to have sort of sections of a library as you would. And then we, of course, have a sort of area that you can't actually access unless you have a Rod of Discord. But this is our attic that has all our storage for just random odds and ends, a few sort of ancient spooky books that you aren't supposed to know about, the forbidden section you could call it. We also try to play with the walls here and keep sort of the theme that we had, which is just to have a contrast between stone and wood. And in this case, we flipped it where instead of having predominantly wood features, we went with more stone and then added wood, but boreal wood instead, which looks a little bit cleaner, but it's covered in cobwebs. There's a lot of stone. You can see obviously for ebon stone, and then we of course have our dungeon wall. This is our pink slab wall, I believe, painted gray. So a lot of different contrasting elements which look quite good. So when it comes to roofing, as you know, I'm not a super huge fan. I don't do the best job. However, with this one, I thought I would try something quite a bit different. So here we just kind of intermingled different wood types. This is your standard wood. This might even be fence. We have a couple different woods regardless, and the whole point of this was just to kind of make it look a little bit different and a little bit darker. And then we kept the Dynasty shingle blocks here as sort of the, standard roofing. So while I'm not in love with this roof, I do think it was cool to experiment, and of course, I encourage you to do the same. It doesn't have to be perfect, but maybe you can see some, practical applications in the future. So moving back over to our right, we're going to see the remainder of the sort of library hall. Now this is meant to be more like an open area where you can kind of get to these study tables and study desks were a little bit more, out of the way. And then of course down here we have some more comfortable seating, a little hidden area up here that's a little bit more, I guess, quiet and quaint. And we kept the Dynasty wall here along with the bamboo just to give it a little bit of a different look. We also added some windows and kind of made it a bit more inviting, kind of almost more like a little bit of a coffee shop. And that's where I kind of decided to add this umbrella. Now this looks kind of interesting. You can see this is a logic gate with the logic, I forget what these are called, but the logic gate posts or whatever these are called that go attached to it. And then we just put a platform, and this is where we actually have our pumpkin. So our pumpkin is all, underneath in the back here, and we just kind of added and played around with this, and it actually looks fairly good. And I actually use this in another build as well that you'll see in the coming weeks. So for this part of the build, the sort of, 3D section, you could call this, of the build, it's a little part that you can't access, but it looks really interesting and adds a lot of sort of detail. So this is kind of the outside of the library that you could kind of see from a distance, I guess. Now for the roof, I really like how we have the ebonstone sort of just surrounding or sort of encasing this entire section. We have one piece, I believe, of this is Dynasty wood going straight across. Then we have a variety of different wall types. So we obviously have some brick. I believe this is the pink dungeon brick as well. I just kind of sprinkled them in there to give some texture. Now this was actually not too crazy to make. Actually took me longer, I believe, to actually make these sort of archways, which are obviously quite simple. This is just some, I believe, some palladium column and connecting into some ebonstone. And it just looks pretty clean. So I like the way it turned out. We also added a little platform here that when we hammered down, this is just to add some thickness and give the build a little bit more of a, a better kind of look to it. So with all that being said, that is our library build done. If you have any questions about the build itself, the design, the technique, or any of the materials that I did use, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will happily get back to you. All right, guys, so there you go. There is our corrupt snow bunker build along with our library build. I think they look pretty good. I really do like the library. I think the bunker one it's not something I'm super familiar with, so that would be one that I think if I made another one in the future, I'd have a couple of changes for sure. But for a first attempt, not too bad. And finally, guys, thank you so much for watching the video up to this point. I do appreciate it. It means a lot. And of course, if you're enjoying any of the builds, feel free to check out some of our other videos on the channel where we do some speed builds as well, because it'll kind of let you sort of see how that whole thing kind of comes together. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the builds as much as I did. As always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.